For 3 years, Leo had orbited Ethan. A silent satellite in a decaying orbit, his path had become a grim, familiar ritual. It felt less like stalking now, more a fixed part of the landscape, an unspoken agreement that allowed Ethan to maintain his solitary trajectory while acknowledging the shadow that followed him. On some days, Ethan seemed to ignore him entirely. On others, a text would flash on his screen, curt and predictable. Salad greens. Whatever looks fresh. The message arrived just as Leo approached the corner grocery. It was a preposterous arrangement, he knew. He was supposed to be the hunter, the observer, but he'd been relegated to the role of an unwilling personal shopper. He once considered replying that this whole dynamic was profoundly undignified, but the truth was he craved these small commands. There was another time, a frantic message that had made his blood run cold. A single word, sharp and desperate. Suppressants. He'd ignored it, a reckless decision born of years of frustration. He'd picked the lock instead. That night had ended with him sobbing, begging Ethan to stop biting, his voice cracking on the assertion that an alpha couldn't be marked. Waking up the next morning had been a study in self-loathing. The dull ache at his nape was a throbbing reminder of the previous night's madness. Ethan was a serene landscape in sleep beside him, his handsome features relaxed. A vicious, fleeting urge to ruin that tranquility rose in Leo, but it died as soon as it formed. How could anyone mar a face like that? It was a masterpiece of genetics, a face that disarmed anger. He supposed the universe wasn't to blame for creating such a perfect man. The fault lay with him for his spectacular lack of self-control. His own brazen words echoed in his mind, a humiliating chant. "I'm better than any suppressant, Ethan." He wished the floor would swallow him whole. He was an alpha who only fell for other alphas, and not just any kind, the untouchable glacial types. Yet for all his specific tastes, he was a coward. 3 years of devotion had amounted to this pathetic, failed attempt at stealth that had morphed into a glorified escort service. Ethan's life was a monotonous loop of home, office, and grocery store. A circuit Leo had committed to memory. He was almost proud of his own persistence. The cashier at the grocery store, a woman with tired eyes, offered him a knowing nod. He was a regular in a neighborhood where he didn't even live. He moved through the aisles with an expert's efficiency, grabbing the organic kale and heirloom tomatoes Ethan preferred. He knew every one of Ethan's culinary prejudices, learned through 3 years of observation and procurement. Bell peppers, for instance, were an absolute anathema, dismissed by Ethan as the garish, overbearing party crashers of any dish. He let himself into the quiet, minimalist apartment. Sometimes Ethan left the door unlocked, a gesture of either profound trust or utter indifference. Leo wondered why he didn't just give him a key. It would be so much simpler. He hadn't done anything truly transgressive, unless you counted rescuing a cashmere scarf from the trash can last winter. He'd reasoned that he was merely accelerating its journey out of the apartment. And if one didn't count the secret ritual of rolling around on Ethan's bed, then his record was spotless. He deposited the groceries on the granite countertop and made a beeline for the bedroom. He flopped onto the bed, burying his face in the duvet, inhaling the faint, clean scent that clung to the fabric. It was barely there, a ghost of sandalwood and ozone, but it was enough. He didn't linger. He smoothed the sheets, erasing any evidence of his presence, and slipped back outside, hiding in the alcove across the street to wait. 5 minutes later, Ethan's car pulled up. He got out, but paused at his door, his gaze sweeping the street. Leo tried to shrink further into the shadows, but it was too late. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second. A flicker of something unreadable crossed Ethan's face before he turned away, unlocked his door, and disappeared inside. A moment later, Leo's phone buzzed. "Come in and eat." Leo blinked at the screen, certain he was misreading it. He pushed himself out of the shadows and walked to the apartment, finding the door left slightly ajar. Inside, Ethan had shed his suit jacket and was in the kitchen, a simple gray apron tied over a crisp white dress shirt. The thin cotton did little to hide the defined muscles of his back and shoulders. Leo knew that physique well. He joined the same upscale gym just to watch Ethan work out, a pathetic and expensive escalation of his obsession. The sight of him at the stove, calm and domestic, sent a ridiculous thought through Leo's head. He was the perfect wife. An alpha wife, but a wife nonetheless, at least in the private theater of his own mind. Ethan glanced over his shoulder as Leo entered but said nothing, returning his attention to the sizzling pan. He never asked for help. Leo simply hovered, a silent, useless appendage, until the meal was ready. As Leo reached for a plate to set the table, Ethan's voice, low and even, cut through the quiet. He stated, rather than asked, that Leo had been in his bed. The air thickened. Leo felt a hot flush of shame creep up his neck. He tried to play dumb, offering a sheepish grin and muttering something about getting intimately acquainted with the mattress. He wondered how Ethan always knew. Was he that obvious? Ethan pressed the heel of his hand to his forehead, a gesture of weary exasperation, but let the matter drop. Any other person would have thrown him out. If the roles were reversed, Leo knew he would have. Then again, if he were thrown out, he would just be more careful the next time he broke in. Ethan ate little, pushing the food around his plate before setting his fork down. Leo instinctively reached out, his fingers brushing against Ethan's forearm. Ethan flinched, his whole body going rigid. Leo pulled his hand back as if burned. He remembered. The germophobia. Back in high school, they'd been lab partners. Ethan had recoiled from his touch, had thrown away a pen Leo had borrowed, had obsessively wiped down a notebook cover Leo had grazed with disinfectant wipes. The worst had been when their hands accidentally brushed in the hallway. Ethan had stared at his own hand in disgust before marching to the nearest restroom, where Leo heard the faucet running for a solid 5 minutes. He'd been furious, demanding to know what Ethan's problem was, asking if his touch was somehow toxic. Ethan had just frowned, his voice a low murmur as he passed, telling Leo to get his scent under control and to never, ever approach him smelling like an Omega again. Leo had just carried an Omega girl who'd fainted during a pep rally to the nurse's office. School rules required scent-blocking patches for everyone, so any trace should have been faint. Ethan's sense of smell was unervingly sharp. After that, Leo had become paranoid about his own scent, dousing himself in cloying pheromone-masking colognes that smelled of synthetic peaches or gardenias. His best friend, Sam, had relentlessly mocked him, calling him the prettiest flower in the locker room. But it had worked. Ethan's attitude had softened from outright revulsion to a cool, distant tolerance. Leo cleared his throat, trying to dispel the awkward memory. He commented that Ethan had barely eaten. Ethan was still staring at the spot on his arm where Leo had touched him, his jaw tight. He claimed he wasn't hungry and told Leo to finish. The words tumbled out of Leo's mouth before he could stop them, a torrent of information he shouldn't have had. He knew Ethan had only grabbed a prepackaged sandwich from the deli near his office for lunch. He asked if Ethan had the appetite of a bird. Both of them froze. A slow smile spread across Ethan's face, a rare and startling sight. It was laced with amusement. He remarked on how casually Leo had just admitted to his surveillance, how breathtakingly audacious it was. Leo's mind screamed at him. Is that something to be proud of? Ethan's eyes were alight with a teasing glint. He said perhaps Leo should just assume he had the appetite of a bird. Then he rose and went into the bedroom. Leo watched as he began stripping the bed, pulling off the duvet cover and sheets. After a moment's hesitation, Ethan lifted the discarded sheet and, to Leo's astonishment, brought it to his nose, inhaling deeply. His expression was complex, unreadable. When he looked up and caught Leo staring, Leo quickly looked down at his empty plate, his heart hammering. Ethan walked back out, tossing the bundled sheets onto a chair. He informed Leo, his tone flat, that the fabric was saturated with his scent. It sounded like an accusation, as if Leo were a dog marking territory and Ethan was the unfortunate lamppost. The memory of high school resurfaced, and Leo instinctively touched the back of his neck. He'd forgotten his scent-blocking patch today. He knew he was in the wrong and mumbled an apology. Then, like an idiot, added that he would be more careful next time. Ethan's gaze was sharp, questioning if there was going to be a next time. Leo could only touch his nose guiltily. Ethan sighed, a sound of profound weariness. He stated that he couldn't sleep with Leo's scent in the room. He instructed Leo to wash the sheets, not to stay too long, and to remember to buy more patches. It was a list of commands, and Leo could only obey. With the laundry machine humming, he tiptoed back to the bedroom. Ethan was asleep, his breathing even. Leo stood by the bed, mesmerized by the perfect architecture of his face. He leaned down, his movements trance-like, and pressed a kiss to the bridge of Ethan's nose, as light as a butterfly's wing. His heart stuttered. He crossed a line. And just as he was mentally berating himself, Ethan's eyes opened. He'd been caught. A wry smile touched Ethan's lips as if to say, "It's my fault." Leo felt a surge of regret. If he'd known he'd be caught, he would have aimed for the mouth. They stared at each other. Leo scrambled backward. Ethan sat up, his fingertips brushing the spot Leo had just kissed. Leo stammered that the sheets were washing and he was leaving, then fled the apartment as if the hounds of hell were after him. Sleep eluded him that night. The next day, he felt exhausted. His own body clock, now synchronized with Ethan's over 3 years, woke him at dawn. He went to his usual spot near Ethan's building, nursing a coffee and waiting. But Ethan never emerged. After an hour, anxiety began to gnaw at him. He drove by Ethan's office. His parking spot was empty. He wrestled with the urge to call, but what would he say? Finally, he crafted a careful text, asking if Ethan had gone to the office and if he needed any groceries. The silence that followed was agonizing. Hours passed. Finally, a reply came. Suppressants. Now, his heart stopped. Ethan's rut must have come early. He'd always been so prepared, so controlled. An image bloomed in Leo's mind. Ethan, feverish and helpless, unable to leave his apartment. A dark, selfish thought took root. He went to the pharmacy and bought the injection, but standing outside Ethan's door, he hesitated. For years, he'd been looking but not touching. He was tired of being good. He was a stalker, a creep. There was no nobility in his obsession. In a fit of rebellion, he dropped the box of suppressants into a public trash can and picked the lock. The air inside the apartment was thick with a potent, distressed alpha pheromone. It was an assault on his senses, a scent that was inherently repulsive to another alpha. A war raged inside him between instinctual rejection and obsessive desire. Desire won. Even if Ethan hated him after this, it would be worth it. Ethan was in bed, his face flushed, his skin slick with sweat. He saw Leo and his voice was a rasp. He asked for the suppressant. Leo's own voice was a flirtatious, trembling thing he barely recognized as he moved closer, telling Ethan he didn't need it, that he was there, that he was better. Ethan's eyes widened in surprise, and before he could refuse, Leo leaned in and kissed him, hard and desperate. For a moment, it was everything he'd dreamed of. Then the dynamic shifted. Ethan's strength, even in his fevered state, was overwhelming. He pinned Leo's hands, his grip like iron. It was Leo who was breathless, Leo who was overpowered. He tried to push away, but couldn't move. Panic flared. This wasn't right. Ethan wasn't in his right mind. He begged Ethan to let him go, promising to get the real suppressants. Ethan's face darkened. He repeated Leo's own foolish words back to him. "You said you were better." Leo wanted to die of shame, whimpering that he was an idiot, that he'd been talking nonsense. But Ethan wasn't listening. He buried his face in Leo's neck, tore off the forgotten patch with his teeth, and bit down. Pain, sharp and blinding, exploded behind Leo's eyes. An alien pheromone flooded his system, a toxic invasion that made him dizzy and weak. He cried out, pleading, but Ethan only silenced him, his hand over Leo's mouth, his other arm trapping him in an unbreakable hold. When Leo surfaced the next morning, shame was a physical weight. Before Ethan could speak, Leo was already babbling, a rapid-fire apology, promising it would never happen again, that he would disappear from Ethan's life forever. He watched Ethan's expression curdle, shifting from something soft to a mask of cold fury. Ethan's voice was dangerously low, each word a clipped, angry bite. He asked what exactly Leo took him for. A toy? Something to be conquered and then discarded? His face crumpled into something lost and wounded, and he whispered about being abandoned, just like the butterfly. Leo, shell-shocked and defensive, insisted that what happened didn't have to mean anything. They could just forget it. That was the wrong thing to say. Ethan's eyes flashed with a terrifying rage. He ordered Leo to make good on his promise, to never come near him or his home again, and to not make him lose all respect. The words were like shards of ice in Leo's veins. He dressed and left, feeling smaller and more broken than he ever had. He kept his word. The stalking stopped. He blocked Ethan's number to stop himself from checking for messages that would never come. Life felt gray and empty. He saw Ethan occasionally from a distance. The man looked like a walking thundercloud. Leo would just turn and walk the other way. Weeks later, a persistent nausea and a complete loss of appetite sent him to the doctor. He asked his friend Sam to go with him. The diagnosis was so bizarre, so impossible, that they both stared at the doctor in stunned silence. He was pregnant. A 1 in a million anomaly for an alpha, the doctor explained, his reproductive cavity not designed for it. It was incredibly dangerous. If he'd waited any longer, it would have ruptured. The doctor told him gravely that the pregnancy had to be terminated, and the dangerous organ removed along with it. He needed a partner's signature on the consent forms. Numb, Leo looked at Sam, who wordlessly took the clipboard and signed. The surgery went well. Sam insisted Leo stay with him for a month to recover, fussing over him with a brotherly concern that was both touching and irritating. Leo was grateful. He felt adrift, and Sam was his anchor. But even under Sam's care, he felt a strange, persistent chill, as if he were being watched. Back in his own apartment, he ran into Ethan one afternoon. The look Ethan gave him was so full of hurt and resentment that the neatly stitched scar on his abdomen began to ache. That evening, he came home to find Ethan sitting on his living room sofa. Leo nearly jumped out of his skin. Ethan looked up, his expression unreadable, and asked dryly if only Leo was allowed to pick locks. He then launched into a bitter tirade, asking if Leo's new target wasn't with him, or if he'd already moved on to someone else. It took Leo a moment to understand. He cautiously asked if Ethan was talking about Sam. The name seemed to confirm Ethan's worst fears. He scoffed. Leo tried to explain that he and Sam were just friends, that they had been for years. But Ethan was beyond reason, convinced of his own narrative, accusing Leo of being a silver-tongued liar. Leo finally snapped. He told Ethan that he knew the real problem. Ethan was just angry because the attention had stopped. He told him it was pathetic and that who he was with was none of Ethan's business. The words hung in the air, incendiary. Ethan stared at him for a long, silent moment, then stood up and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Leo was left trembling, his hand unconsciously covering the scar beneath his shirt. He wondered what Ethan would think if he knew they'd had a child who had left a permanent mark on his body. The next day, he ended up at Sam's, miserable. After hours of video games and several beers, Sam finally asked him what was really going on. Leo's composure shattered. Through thickening tears, he mumbled that Ethan didn't want him anymore. Sam looked confused, then put the pieces together. He asked, his voice hesitant, if the baby had been Ethan's. Leo could only nod, then shake his head, explaining that Ethan hated him and had told him to get out of his life. Later that night, drunk and heartbroken. Leo found himself stumbling through the cold streets until he was standing outside Ethan's apartment building. He picked the lock, his fingers clumsy but sure from years of practice. The apartment was empty. Emboldened by alcohol and grief, he went to the bedroom and began pulling all of Ethan's clothes from the closet, piling them on the bed until he had a mountain of fabric. He burrowed into it, burying his face in the faint scent, and began to sob. He released his own pheromones, a desperate, frantic act of marking the space, wanting Ethan to be suffocated by his scent, to be unable to sleep. In the midst of his madness, he looked up and saw Ethan standing in the doorway, breathless, as if he had run all the way home. Leo gave him a watery, broken smile. Ethan crossed the room in 2 strides and pulled him out of the nest of clothes, crushing him in an embrace so tight it hurt. His coat was cold from the frigid spring air. He whispered that he was sorry, that he was late. It must be freezing out, Leo murmured into his chest. Hold me. I'll warm you up. They stayed like that for a long time. Leo tilted his head back and gently kissed Ethan's eyelids. His brow, terrified the vision would disappear. He wondered if he was dreaming. If so, he begged the dream not to end. Ethan cupped his face, his thumb stroking away a tear Leo hadn't realized he'd shed. His voice was impossibly gentle. Silly, he murmured. I'm not going anywhere. This dream lasts a lifetime. He leaned down and kissed Leo's forehead before leaving to get a towel. A lifetime. The word echoed in Leo's dazed mind. When Ethan returned and began gently cleaning his face, Leo finally found his voice. He asked, his tone uncertain, if Ethan liked him, if he wasn't going to be told to leave again. Ethan gave him a weary smile and asked what he thought. Fresh tears welled up, and Leo clung to him, apologizing, begging Ethan not to hate him, to keep liking him. Ethan just laughed softly. I can't stop, he admitted. It's been a habit for too long. They kissed, a desperate, clumsy collision that was more like a fight for air, for ownership. When they finally broke apart, lips bruised, they fell into the pile of clothes and slept. The next morning, tangled together in the sheets, Ethan's hand found the pale, thin scar on Leo's abdomen. His voice was rough with sleep as he asked when it had happened. Leo told him everything. When he mentioned Sam signing the papers, Ethan's body went taut. He asked who signed them.
Sam, Leo whispered.
Ethan's face clouded over, but the anger quickly dissolved into a wave of guilt. He buried his face in Leo's neck, his voice muffled as he apologized for the pain he'd caused, for not being there. Leo shook his head, insisting it wasn't his fault. But Ethan was inconsolable. He whispered that the next time, he would be the one to carry their child. Leo was stunned into silence. He told Ethan it wasn't necessary, that it was different, that he didn't mind. To change the subject, he marveled at how Ethan had always managed to catch him in the act. Ethan chuckled, a low rumble in his chest. He confessed that he had security cameras. Leo's jaw dropped. All those times he'd rolled around in the bed, Ethan had seen everything. Ethan added, a grin in his voice, that there were cameras near the front door, too. Leo felt like a complete fool, realizing Ethan had been playing a game of his own all along. Ethan pulled him closer, ruffling his hair. He clarified that the cameras were only installed after he realized Leo was following him. But he said that even without them, he would have always found him. That no matter where Leo went, he would never be lost to him. Leo's heart felt like it would beat out of his chest. He held on tighter. He remembered something and asked about the butterfly Ethan had mentioned. Ethan looked at him, truly looked at him, and asked if he really didn't remember his 8th birthday. He described a shy little boy who had carefully presented him with a folded paper butterfly, a butterfly that had later been crushed into the mud. The memory hit Leo like a physical blow. That was you? He gasped. He remembered. He told Ethan that his older brother had snatched it away in a fit of jealousy, and that he'd searched everywhere for it but never found it. He had never thrown it away. Ethan looked at him, a dawning realization on his face. Leo leaned in and kissed him softly, murmuring that he treasured everything that came from Ethan. That Ethan himself was his treasure. A slow, genuine smile spread across Ethan's face. He rested his forehead against Leo's. "Leo," he said softly, "you really are like a butterfly. You came in so lightly and fluttered through all of my dreams." And Leo knew, in that quiet moment, that Ethan had been fluttering through his as well.